Breaking news, everyone. Trump just made massive change that is going to affect credit. Now, I don't know if you guys been seeing this, but banks been closing down accounts abruptly and without notice all across the country.
So I first started out with Chase, and for whatever reason, they decided to close my account and blacklist me and force me to pay all the charges I put on the credit card. So that was absolutely terrifying because it was out of nowhere. I have like good credit, and it was just, they couldn't even explain to me why it happened. They just decided to close everything.
Really, they're not communicating with us. About 12:45 p.m. Eastern time today, customers of Bank of America system was down. They were trying to access their bank accounts, but something called the down detector that collects data on outages started detecting that the services were down and people were unable to actually see their balances. Not my balance. Not this world food economy. $1,000 when you go to the grocery store and I can't access my balance.
It's been so bad. Massive numbers of people were unable to access their bank account with all of their savings.
No, it just says UCF code, and they didn't know what that meant.
Okay, so is there like a reference number for the escalation? Because you said you had an escalator.
No, it's just an internal email. It's just like a sent. And I'll reach out to you. I have your phone.
Okay, so Thursday.
So this is day 16 that Chase Bank has decided to close my account and freeze all my funds without any explanation. Not only is this unprofessional, but this is very unethical.
Now, the Trump administration have looked into the issue because, if you remember, his wife's bank account was shut down, also his son, and other Republican lawmakers and other conservatives that felt that they were targeted and their accounts was abruptly shut down. And you know what? The banks admitted that they've been pushing a lot of people out of the banking system, and it's been for a reason, but it wasn't over their political views. There's something else in the works. And we're going to jump in this article so you can understand why this has been happening. Now, in this article, JP Morgan Chase CEO admits U.S. banks push people out of the system after Trump hammers Chase Bank of America over abrupt account termination. JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon is addressing the controversy over how and why some American citizens and businesses are abruptly finding themselves kicked out of the banking system. After meeting with Republican lawmakers in Washington, D.C. on the subject of debanking, Dimon told reporters that Chase never drops customers over religious or political affiliations. Instead, Dimon said unclear federal guidelines, especially around the anti-money laundering rules, force banks to deny services out of compliant fears, reported Yahoo Finance. When squarely asked if regulations are to blame for debanking, Dimon responded pretty much, yeah. There are a lot of things that should be fixed. Anti-money laundering laws are extraordinary, and it does cause a lot of people to be pushed out of the system because banks were afraid of being sued, fined, because after the fact, something goes wrong, coulda, woulda, shoulda, you could pay $1 billion. Dimon remarks come after President Trump hammered Bank of America and JP Morgan Chase during a virtual World Economic Forum session, accusing them of wrongly denying conservatives access to bank accounts. Now, the rules that they are concerned about connected to the anti-money laundering rules is the BOI rule. Now, if you don't understand what BOI is, let me give you this breakdown. On January the 1st, 2024, the CTA introduced requirements around beneficial ownership transparency. It developed a new category of entities required to comply with the law as reporting companies and set out requirement for these companies to keep records of their shareholders or ultimate beneficial owners, UBOS, and reporting this information and subsequent updates to FinCEN. A beneficial owner is an individual who owns or control directly or indirectly at least 25% of ownership interest or exercise supplemental control over the entity. Beneficial ownership information includes BOI, full name, date of birth, current address, and distinct identification number. In November 2023, FinCEN issued a rule detailing on how to use the entity FinCEN identifier to report BOI, and 3 conditions are met. Now, with this rule, any beneficial owner, like if you had an LLC that you weren't even using, or if you started a new LLC after January 1st, 2024, you only had 30 days to register a officer or your name, if you're a single member LLC, to the BOI. Now, they did extend that in September of 2024 to give LLCs or any established corporation at least an additional 90 days. Now, for those that had LLCs that was established before January 1st, 2024, you had until January 1st, 2025 in order to register to the BOI. Now, if you did not do that, you had the following stiff penalties and fines, and it could even lead you to jail time. Here is the penalties as follows. Company directors who do not comply could pay up to $500 per day, up to $10,000, and face jail time of up to 2 years. So as you can see, you could be subject to jail time up to 2 years and fine up to $500 a day to the max of $10,000 just for being a person that had that just LLC you haven't been doing anything with, you established, or if you are operating in that LLC, you could face those penalties and fines. And so the banks got trigger happy and start kicking people out of the system. And they were doing all of this even last year with suspicious activity and with the rule changes. This is why a lot of shutdowns happened to business accounts and personal accounts for this ruling because the banks didn't want to get sued. Now, with this rule, it really kind of penalized small business owners because if you were a business with more than 21 employees, you didn't have to comply to this rule. So this really stopped small business owners. And this was actually going to be detrimental because if you look at it like this, when it comes down to business credit, one of the benefits of you being a small business owner, if your credit is in line, you can actually get lines of credit with your LLC and you can personally guarantee it, but it doesn't show up on your personal credit reports. Now, with you having to report that you're owner of this company, and if you have multiple LLCs, now the banks can see the outstanding debt that these businesses have assigned towards you. And this can stop you on your personal side from getting your own personal loans, even though you have an outside business that should be able to operate under its own EIN. You're just the officer for that company running this business. And if you have with that company getting like business lines of credit, especially when you go over $100,000, you can get UCC liens put on that business and now your name is connected to it. It could stop you from getting funding for other LLCs you may have that's totally separate or your own personal lending, which if you're doing business, you want to separate the two. It should not intertwine, especially for tax purposes. So this made it hard for small business owners like you and me or somebody to get started and really stop us from competing to qualify for capital when you have big corporations that didn't have to worry about this rule and they can get all the capital and it limits the competition in the market, making prices higher for consumers because they don't have more options. But Trump have recently made a change. As of yesterday, the administration, they have put a pause on this. Now, this is going to be a major win for small business owners because this is a great opportunity for people, even like yourself. If you want to really go ahead and clean up your credit, it is best for you to operate on the business side of credit because those balances do not show up on your personal credit report, giving you the ability to go and get your own personal loans and keep your credit score high because that utilization do not show on your personal side and you can get more business lines of credit. Now, with my elite credit system, one of my users, Sean, he went from a 612 credit score all the way with his credit scores over 770, and now he's at an 803. And he went through my business credit program and he was able now to get business credit. So he was able to take advantage of that. And you need to too, to get on the business side of things. This is why you guys constantly have problems with your credit scores going up and down. It is wise if you start a side business or start a business operation and build business credit because that entity is its own self. So it should not be showing up on your personal credit. And now with this rule changing up, where Trump is now pushing this back, eliminating this requirement only now for foreign companies. This is going to be a great win for small business owners and people like you and me who need to get access to credit to be able to compete. Another great thing about business credit, even if you're starting off, you can project on those applications on how much that business is going to make. And generally for credit cards, then the company gives you at least 15% of that projected income to 8%. So unlike your personal credit cards, where you got to talk about your annual income, and this is based on the income you're making now, with business credit cards, you can project. So if you are a trunking company or a lawn care company, you can look at the average annual income of the businesses in that area. And another great thing, this was going to interfere with people getting shelf corporations. And why is shelf corporations important? Because with shelf corporations, many banks and lenders want to see that you, to get a loan from them as a business, be in business for at least 2 years. And a lot of times with government contracts, a gentleman may know how to do some kind of work, as far as masonry or even electrician work. But for some of those municipalities and government contracts for you to bid on, they want to see that business been open for 2 to 3 years. And if you're just starting off, that's some business you can't get into. So getting a shelf corporation and buying that and setting it up right, because you want to make sure that you're getting it from certain states. And when you change over that ownership, that change is not seen. Or if you buy that shelf corp and you make that change improperly and it's seen that it changed ownership, the banks consider that as a brand new business. So it's certain ways that you need to do that in order for that to work for you. And you got to, know what you know when you're buying shelf corps, because you could be on the hook by buying that business for somebody else if they have some tax liabilities. And it's legal because people buy businesses all the time. So hopefully this information was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, drop it in the comment section. But if you got more detailed questions for me, you can go directly to my website and all your questions go right to my cell phone. So I look to see you guys in the next video. Stay tuned.